who's coaching again. And Tennessee football hot on the recruiting trail as well. Tons to discuss in Knoxville, Tennessee, as RKW continues this morning with Ramon in Mobile. You got Kayla Anderson and myself, Will Bowling, in studio, joined when the glass breaks weekly by VolQuest's Austin Price here this morning. Austin, what's up, sir? How are you?
How we doing, everybody?
Good.
We are good. There's never a dull moment, is there? Especially not for Kim Caldwell, who gave birth and coached last night. Austin, we've got a lot to talk about with you this morning.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, she's I honestly didn't. I think her plan was to not have to miss any game.
Right.
But, best laid plan. She had to miss one and, back out there on the sidelines last night after 1 week of giving birth. And, kudos to her. She's a tough lady, and it looked like she didn't miss a beat. Now, team, they struggled a little bit in the second, third quarter. They really missed a ton of shots for a 3 of 26 from 3 or whatever it was. It was not good, but they kind of scrapped and clawed and made it respectable in the end, only losing by 7 to a South Carolina team that's won now, I think, 55 in a row in league play and has only one loss in the season. That's the number 1 UCLA, so the number 2 team in the country did what they're supposed to do. And Tennessee, will continue to try to evolve and improve under first-year Coach Caldwell.
No doubt about it. For all of us that think we are busy, Kim Caldwell was busier over the last week. There's no doubt about that. Austin, before we get to Tennessee, Kentucky, I wanted to hit a couple of the headlines on the football side of things. Tim Banks officially signs his new 3-year contract. Just how significant of a development is that for Tennessee, and what is the biggest difference, I guess, in the old deal and the new deal and just the investment the Vols are making in him as really kind of the head coach of the defense?
Well, you reset the deal, right? I mean, he was on an expiring contract, and now he has got another 3-year deal. Obviously, a nice bump in pay, over $2 million a year. And, I think continuity, stability, I think all that stuff matters. When was Philip Fulmer and some of his program at its best when they had a stable group of coordinators? And, I think, to get Coach Banks back is a big deal. They've got to continue to improve, continue to evolve. He's got to continue to improve. Obviously, at the end of the day, he wants to become a head coach down the line. And I think, for him, figuring out a way to not have those moments like Georgia and Ohio State where you can't get home, where basically the quarterback just has all day to throw. Like that's some things they have to clean up as a defense. But on the whole, I mean, what Tim Banks has done since he got here, when he was left with nothing in the cupboard defensively, or very little, to now, is really, really impressive.
Austin, as you look at this offensive line moving forward, and Andrej Karic specifically, kind of the musical chairs Tennessee could have, whether or not he is or isn't on the team next season, is there any kind of timetable for the Vols learning if Karic is a part of the roster next season?
Well, I think you approach it like he's not going to be there, and if he's there, then obviously that changes some things, and it does give you flexibility if Andre's back. If he's able to win the appeal and be back on this football team, that would adjust some things for Tennessee. So right now he's just kind of going through the process, still in school, and we'll see what the NCAA decides as far as the appeals. If it gets to a court battle, I mean, the NCAA is basically the Washington Generals the last 2 or 3 years. So, I'm not sure if it'll ever get that far. We'll see. But, right now, I think, if you're Tennessee, you approach it like Andre's not going to be back, even with him around, because I think that's where you have to. You have to assume the worst and then, hope for the best.
Austin Price, our good friend of VolQuest, joining us this morning on RK-Dub. So winter workouts are underway for football right now, Austin. They have officially announced 23 early enrollees. What's the benefit of that situation?
Well, it's a big benefit. It's not an end-all, be-all. I mean, you go back a couple of years ago, I mean, 2 of the freshmen that played the most were players that didn't arrive till the summer. So, again, it's not an end-all, be-all, but it does get you a jump start. It gets you around for spring practice, gets you in the weight room for winter workouts, as you just talked about, and lets the nutrition staff, the weight staff, the medical staff, kind of get their hands on you and see if they can, either get you healthy or transform your body or whatever. And then once you get on the field for spring practice, again, that's 15 practices that somebody that doesn't get here till the summer does not get. And so, it's big for a Travis Smith. It's big for a David Sanders, who Tennessee's got a big investment in. And, to me, they need him to see the field as quickly as possible. So it's big for all those young players. And, honestly, it's big for the transfers because they're in a new situation with new surroundings and a new offense or defense. And, they've got to kind of pick things up quickly as well.
Austin, let's switch to the court right now, and Tennessee with a big matchup with Kentucky tonight at home. But Kentucky also dealing with some losses as of recently. How do you see this one matching up?
Well, I think you look at Kentucky at its best. They're backed against the wall. They need a good performance. I think Tennessee's going to have to play well. I really do. I think this is going to be a Kentucky team that can easily beat Tennessee if Tennessee does not play well defensively and shoot the ball better offensively. Tennessee played, I thought, was a fantastic defensive game the other night at Auburn. Just can't make shots. And so, they can't have that happen tonight. Kentucky scores it really, really well. And so even if you bring it defensively, they're still going to make enough shots to where you're going to have to make some shots at home. Tennessee has to serve at home. You have to win your home games. It's a big week. You're in a big stretch here going Auburn, Kentucky, Florida. With Florida being a team you've already lost to and got hammered by down in Gainesville. So, this is a big week for Tennessee. They need to hold serve at home, beat Kentucky and Florida. They actually have a 3-game homestand with Missouri on the back end of that. So, they need to win their next 3. And then they've got to win just enough on the road down the stretch here to give themselves a decent seed at the SEC tournament.
VolQuest's Austin Price, our guest. Austin, who is that player for you who needs to step up in the biggest way? Because we know what we're getting from Zakai Ziegler. I know Chaz Lanier has been a little up and down, more so in SEC play, but you largely know what you're getting out of him as well. Who is that X factor for you? Who's the next most important player in this Tennessee team?
It would be Igor Milicic. I mean, he provides, really nice prowess as a rebounder and has most of the year. But they need him to be able to knock down shots. And I don't know if that's threes. I just think it's score points, either at the rim, 12, 13, 14, 15 feet, or, back behind the three-point line occasionally knocking down a three. But I think he's got to be that X factor for this team. And then off the bench, I will go Darnell Stone-Dubar. I mean, again, he's kind of a kid that, can kind of get hot when things are rolling, and they need him to give you 7 to 9 points every time out.
Austin, it's interesting as Tennessee continues moving forward in basketball recruiting. I know they're set to host 5-Star Plus, according to On3, Nate Ament, on an unofficial visit tonight for the Kentucky game. They're talking with 5-star combo guard Braden Burries and have a number of targets out there because there are a lot of holes on this roster, as there always is, especially in basketball. How strong of a contender, Austin, is Tennessee for Ament as they go up against a top 11 in his recruiting process that's filled with the blue bloods in college hoops?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he is a really, really talented player. I mean, the likes of Duke and all the other blue bloods are after him. And, again, Tennessee, I think, is very much in this. But, I think it's way too early to call them the team to beat or the favorite or anything like this. I think getting him to campus tonight is big to see the atmosphere because I think, Food City Center will be fantastic. It will be rocking, and it'll be awesome in there. And so to get him in there is big. If Tennessee plays well and performs well, I think obviously that helps because the crowd will be even more juiced. And, again, when you're in these type battles on the recruiting trail, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, against other upper echelon elite teams, this is a big boy battle. And so, Rick Barnes and them will have to show well. Obviously, Tennessee, from an NIL standpoint, will have to have a nice package for him. But ultimately, it's about, proving yourself to him and, to the people around him that will help determine whether you land him or not.
Austin Price, a friend of VolQuest, joining us this morning on RK Dub, talking a little Tennessee hoops right now. Austin, how big is this home stretch for the Tennessee Volunteers to kind of get back into a consistent winning groove? And what do you want to see the most out of them with the home court advantage here?
Oh, I think it's huge. I mean, again, you have to hold serve, Kayla. I talked about that a minute ago. I mean, you've got to win the home games and then sprinkle in some road wins. You got to win at LSU. See if you can win at Oxford down the stretch. Win at Oklahoma. Those are all road games you have coming up on your schedule that are gettable. And then see what happens when you go to Rupp, in a return game up there. But you have to win the home games. If you win the home games and, you just sprinkle in some road wins, Tennessee is going to be just fine when it comes to SEC tournament seeding, because this league is going to beat up on itself. And everybody is acknowledging how deep and how talented it is. So losses don't hurt you like they would in another year. So, win the games at home. This 3-game home stretch is big for Tennessee, and go from there.
Do you think you benefit at all in a schedule like this, in a conference like this, maybe playing a little bit more inconsistent ball mid-season? I know that's a weird question to ask, but rather now than later.
Well, the coach's answer would be you want to win every game you play, right?
Yeah.
But I agree with what your point is, and your point is you don't want to peak too soon. You don't want to be playing too well in January and then kind of, falter come 1st of March. You'd rather be peaking into February, 1st of March, and I agree with you. Tennessee's a program. They won the SEC regular season. They won the SEC tournament the last, handful of years under Rick Barnes. This program needs a Final Four. And I said this on VolQuest, and some people are like, that's ridiculous. And I'm like, I just don't care about like the regular season and the SEC tournament. All that matters to a degree, but like if they go win all that and they get beaten in the Sweet 16, what's everybody gonna say? Couldn't do it again. Couldn't do it again. I think this team needs to be peaking at the right time. Obviously, given the way they play defense, given the way they, just play in general, they'll be in every game they play. It's the ability to get a good path. Look at last year. They may get to the Final Four last year if, guess what, they don't end up in the Midwest against Purdue. But that's how it shook out. And Purdue was really tough with Evie last year, and it was just hard to overcome that. And so, for Tennessee, it's about path. It's about peaking at the right time. And if they get those two combinations, I do believe Tennessee can do something they've never done as a basketball program. But again, it's about playing your best basketball when it matters, which is what your point of the question was.
Austin, on the football recruiting front, Joel Wyatt from the Webb School in Bell Buckle on campus and visiting with Tennessee and some buzz around that recruitment. Tyreek King already in the boat for the class of 2026, and Tristan Keys, the huge target that Tennessee's going after. I know we'll talk about Wyatt in a minute, Austin, but just how big of a priority is wide receiver specifically, considering the turnover that Tennessee has already had at that position for the class of 2026 in the high school ranks? How many resources are being committed to that position moving forward?
Well, I think you're looking at taking 3. Tyron Evans is already committed. You did not mention him. And then, of course, Tyreek King. And so Tennessee's in a good spot with Tristan Keys. But, that's great. It's a nice headline
right
in January. We'll see where it happens. Does he get in the boat? Even if he does get in the boat, kid from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, it'll be a dogfight to hold on to him. Joel Wyatt could play receiver, could play Leo, play safety. The kid's just an athlete, so he could play a number of different positions. Don't think he's locked into being a receiver at the next level, but a kid that's just a playmaker all over the field. And so, again, Tennessee, I think will target, multiple receivers down the stretch here, but already having 2 in the boat, Tyreek King, who's right down the road and is freaky, athletic, and then Tyron Evans, who is just, he's a big kid. You stand beside him, you're like, this kid ain't hit a college weight room yet. He's big. So I think those are 2 nice additions early in this class, and I'm sure they'd love to add at least 1 more.
And Austin, on the way out, with the Senior Bowl starting today and practices down there in Mobile, Alabama, we've talked a lot on this show about Omar Norman-Lott, and I know Ramon is high on him as a draft prospect. considering he has got such a high ceiling for a guy that hasn't really played as many snaps as a lot of his counterparts are who have played as many years as he has in college football. Do you agree with that assessment? And just how good can he be at the next level when you have a lot of these more undersized interior linemen, kind of pass rush types in a mold that he can really fit into at the NFL?
Yeah, I do think at the next level, his best football is ahead of him because he's got such a twitch, can play inside, could play outside in a 3-4. Omar, again, grew up, saw a lot out there in Sacramento. Is kind of, a kid that I think is tough mentally, and having played for Rodney Garner, I think that's helped him the last couple of years. And I do think that he could rise going to the combine, interviewing well, smart kid, knows how to articulate it, and then I think we'll perform well at the combine with all the drills they do for defensive linemen. So it won't shock me at all to see him go rocketing up the draft boards over the next few months.
We hit it all every Tuesday with Austin Price of VolQuest and on 3 at Austin Priceless on Twitter. A VolQuest subscription, a must-have for a Tennessee fan, 24/7, 365. Austin, we appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
Yes,
Austin.
sir. Austin Price with us this morning, previewing Tennessee, Kentucky, and hitting some of the recruiting headlines there as well. Interesting on that basketball front with Nate Amon. The guy only has a top 11 in terms of the schools he's looking for. And essentially, if you just listed the top 11 basketball programs right now, it's all of them.
It's incredible.
But it is interesting. You think about where Tennessee is as a basketball program under Rick Barnes and the way they recruit. He gets in the process late and kind of closes the deal, which is essentially where they are now with him and Braden Burry's the 5-star point guard. And they're going to have some one-and-dones and some, one-and-done transfers in the program next season because there's a lot of holes to fill for sure.
No, absolutely. But just to be in the mix for that, Will, like you mentioned, top 11, and for Tennessee to be mentioned now as one of those schools who's always kind of known now to go to the tournament, make a deep run, that alone is on Rick Barnes as how he's elevated and continued to elevate the program.
Totally. It is funny, though. We talked about it the other day. In the SEC, I think so many fans still view these games like we view college football games.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily I would rather win, obviously.
Sure.
But if Tennessee loses a game because Zakai Ziegler gets in a fluke foul trouble and is out of the game for 6-7 minutes, I'm okay going through that experience for this team to be its best in March versus dropping a game in January. Tonight, though, does feel a little bit different because, A, it's at home, like you mentioned, and B, you can't let one loss turn into two because you played really, really well on Saturday. But you can't let Auburn beat you twice and get down on what didn't work on Saturday night down there and let that affect you moving forward into a pivotal 3-game home stretch.
That's the tricky thing about navigating the SEC now, and coaches have to take that into account, is you are going to have those days that you go on the road, you take a loss, but you have to find a way to bounce back. I think that's the thing you have to do in the SEC. You can take losses, but you have to bounce back quicker than you don't. And what Kentucky is doing right now is that's a little bit of gray territory for them because they have taken 2 losses, and you don't want to get on a streak either, but as Tennessee looks at it, we're at home. We have to protect. Mm-hmm. So it is who's going to be the best coach team tonight, Will, kind of situation. And I do still think that Rick Barnes and the Vols have the upper hand.
Coming up next, some NFL headlines, some speculation on quarterback dominoes, courtesy of ESPN.com. There are 3 teams that they say are suitors for Sam Darnold. We'll tell you who those teams are specifically, plus how one other quarterback domino in Pittsburgh from an answer up there yesterday could affect the Titans as well. We'll hit those NFL headlines for you coming up next.